Yeah.
The whole computer thing, from start to finish?
We're working, sorry.
That's all that matters.
Okay.
Right back.
Windows Media or MP4?
Ready, sir?
Yeah, I guess so. Not really, right?
All right. Step over there.
And welcome, everybody. Hoopsville live from Salem. I'm Dave McHugh along with Pat Coleman. Just like to look, make sure. Yeah, we're looking good over there.
Should I have introduced us while you were walking into the shop?
I wanted to do it that way because you know what? That's how we do things. Welcome to Hoopsville live in Salem as we get ready for the championship weekend in Salem, Virginia. Obviously, 2 games ahead of us today, and we will start things off with Wisconsin-Whitewater versus Illinois Wesleyan coming up, and we'll lead you up pretty much on that one. And then coming up, the second game will be Williams versus Amherst. That game will be at about 8:30 Eastern time. We'll do a show in between the games ahead of that. If you have any questions for us or our guests who we may have on or whatnot, you can tweet us at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville or hashtag D3H. Also email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Also talk women's basketball if you bring things up. Obviously starting off here right about now, it is the Tufts women versus FDU Florham. And then the second game there at Stevens Point. Actually, I should say that's coming up in an hour. I didn't do the math there in my head of the time change. Coming up an hour after that at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, it will be University of Wisconsin-Whitewater versus Whitman. We are doing these shows once again live from the Salem Civic Center. If you remember and joined us last year, we did these games a part of the Round of 8 celebration here in Salem ahead of the Round of 8 and Final 4 teams and then going on to Atlanta. And this year we will crown a champion. We'll be here along the way. Again, myself and Pat Coleman, and we hope you're enjoying the show. We'll primarily focus on Whitewater and Illinois Wesleyan in this segment. We will be on the air in between the others. Quickly a reminder, at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville and hashtag D3H on Twitter, and email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com. And Pat, I think a lot of discussion so far on the Hoopsville show last night in our conversations with coaches, committee members, and the like, even Salem people. A lot of people seem to have these games as coin flips in some sense. I think Amherst certainly is a leaning favorite. I think Illinois Wesleyan is a leaning favorite, but not necessarily with a lot of confidence from anybody, unless you're talking to their specific fan base.
And even, talking to Amherst fans who have seen their team defeat Williams by 12, 11, and 12 over the course of the season. When I was talking to Mike Wohl yesterday, he said, yeah, maybe Amherst by 6.5. And, we know that he's a guy who spends a lot of time looking at that sort of thing.
He had double figures 2 days beforehand. Now he's down to 6.5. So I think
that's what I believe that's what I heard.
I think even he's, understanding the moment.
I think the I don't know if the line is still shifting on that. Amherst completely healthy, at least. That's what we believe coming into this weekend, where they have not been over the last couple of weeks. And that'll certainly help them out. But, again, we'll talk with Mike Maker and with Dave Hickson about this a little later. But they're both teams that have, a great freshman who have each gotten significantly better over the course of the year. When you get 31 games into the season, those kids really begin to mature a little bit. I know you've seen Duncan Robinson play and say he does not play like a freshman, and it's been it's just been a great year for both of those programs. And I look forward to seeing my first Amherst Williams game later tonight. I had to come to Salem to see that.
You haven't seen the previous game?
Not against each other. I don't believe. I've seen them each play. I saw them both play. I wasn't here. I was at Women's Final Four in 04. And I've seen them in the NESCAC tournament semifinals against each other, or not against each other, but against other teams. And it's just, looking forward to this.
Yeah, it should be good. Band's tuning up, by the way. John Carroll's band making its annual pilgrimage to Salem. Also, Illinois Wesleyan's band is here. I'm not sure if Whitewater, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're at the women's tournament instead. A lot quicker drive there. And I don't believe Amherst or Williams has a band, but you never know. Could be corrected later on that.
But
of course, we talk about the toss-up of things, and even I can go back and forth. I saw Williams last week. They played incredibly good basketball, which begs you to think, geez, as good as Amherst is, the way Williams is playing, can Can Amherst really hold them off yet again? But then again, Amherst is playing very good basketball. They have all season.
Yeah, and I know you saw Williams last week, and you saw them play really well, against teams ranked in the teens. So, against Albertus Magnus, who clearly was not in the upper tier in the New England like they'd hoped they would be, and Mary Washington, who was not the best team over the course of the entire season in the Capital Athletic Conference. So they were the 2 seed in that league, right?
They were 2, yep.
Coming out. So, the question is, how does that compare to something they might see here today? Certainly they're clicking, and, a little confidence and a little momentum will help them out, but we'll be interested to see how they do here against higher competition.
Well, and then the other 2 teams, Illinois Wesleyan and Whitewater. Whitewater gets absolutely thumped in the conference championship game. I think everybody went, hold on a minute, going into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
What is this? Is this more about Stevens Point? Is this more about Whitewater? Then Stevens Point struggles in the tournament, and everyone kind of now tries to reevaluate that. Is Whitewater really playing that well? Or happenstance, hate to take that away from the Warhawks, or are they a situation of happenstance where they don't have to run into Stevens Point? Illinois Wesleyan, on the other hand, losing in the conference title yet again. If nobody knows, Illinois Wesleyan has yet to win a conference tournament title in the short history of the CCIW, and they've gone in a few times in position at least to host that at home. But then on the flip side of that, they barely survived the first game against Webster. And so you kind of look at those 2 teams and go, really, how good are they, or do they have issues that we just can't put our finger on? Like Williams, Illinois Wesleyan is deep. Mike Tully, who's the Roger Williams head coach, who got a chance to see a little bit of Whitewater, in his opinion, thinks Whitewater's kind of like a New England team. That's an interesting kind of dynamic.
Yeah, I was interested to hear that comment. I'm not sure how necessarily that translates, because I think of Whitewater and see Whitewater as a much more physical team. They're very analogous, frankly, to Illinois Wesleyan. They're just not as thick.
They're not as big
thickly
inside,
built,
yeah.
and they're not just tall, but they're large.
Yeah.
So that's one of the significant differences.
Victor Davis, is just he kind of reminds me of North Central's Landon. I forgot Landon's last name. I apologize.
Donovan is the name that comes to mind.
No,
so that's not right.
Big guy inside for North Central. Gamble, thank you. He kind of reminds me a little bit like that, maybe about an inch or 2 taller.
We got a curveball out of context. Yeah. I'm like, what are we talking about?
So, how those guys are going to play out, I'm not sure. I'd be fascinated really to see the matchups between those 2 teams. Now, they've played each other in the past. I joked last night with both coaches that they clearly must have had the mentality that they knew they'd be playing each other in the tournament and didn't schedule each other this year.
That must be it.
So, yeah, that must be it. But they certainly know each other well and can come in kind of prepared. The CCIW and the WIAC are not unfamiliar in that realm. But I also wonder, as they're warming up behind us, how much unfamiliarity there may be since it's been about a year and a half.
Well, I think if you're Whitewater, you can probably go back to some of the things that you learned about Illinois Wesleyan back now. It's at the beginning of last season, but a lot of those players are still here. Opposite side, I'm not sure that works so much. Whitewater was a different team last year. Had a couple seniors. Had a guy who was a one and done, for lack of a better term, at least in Division III, or at least at Whitewater, who was a big part for them last year. KJ Evans was not nearly the player then that he has been now, or especially over the course of the past couple weeks. Cordell Young was in the first week or 2 of his freshman season at that point, and he's a seasoned sophomore at this point.
Yeah, very good sophomore.
I don't think they'd have to go fresh, get all brand new video to go see what those guys are about this time around.
What's interesting, Cordell Young is actually I think the team's leader in blocks, and he gets quite a few. It's not like he just happens to be the guy who leads. What is very interesting about all 4 teams, of course, is they are all familiar with Salem. Amherst is making a return trip. Williams has been here 4 times in the last 5 years, 3 for this particular weekend, last year getting here for the round of 8. Again, Whitewater won a national title 2 years ago. Illinois Wesleyan was here for that experience, has not yet won a national title since '97. But they're not unfamiliar with the gym. They're not unfamiliar with the shooting lines. They're not unfamiliar with where they're staying and their transportation. Yep. And this almost takes on a different scope as a result. You don't have the distractions that maybe you normally are, or adjustments you normally have to go through if you're a team who hasn't been here or hasn't been here in a long time.
I think we were talking last night after the Hoopsville show, looking at the list of teams who are here and how many times they've been to Salem, not to the Final Four, but here to Salem.
Yeah.
And you have the 3 teams who have been here the most often in Illinois Wesleyan, 6 times. Amherst and Williams, and one of them 7, one of them 6, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's.
And then Whitewater's only been here twice, but one of them was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think
and they won a title. Yep.
Yeah,
they have a banner up on the wall over there.
just a couple.
Actually,
all
of these teams have a banner on the wall over there.
That's true.
We'll go get you a shot of the banner on the wall over there as soon as our produce. Yeah, okay.
Well,
Sorry about that.
So, that dynamic, I think, is gone. I saw them in shoot-arounds. I saw a couple of teams in warm-ups today. There's no clankers of shots. There's crispness to those shots. They're sitting through the nets. They're running through like this building is just their home. And so I think that changes the dynamic. And on paper, these 2 games today and potentially the championship game tomorrow look like this is probably the most even and deepest set of games we've seen in Salem in a good amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, and how often have you and I come here over the course of the past 15 years and, talked about teams having to get adjusted to the shooting lines and, the fact that this is a bigger arena than most Division III teams play in, and we don't really have any of that discussion. And that's good, especially if you're an Illinois Wesleyan fan. That's a team with 7 guys who like to shoot from deep and shoot from deep well, and that's a very they're very dependent on that. Almost 50% of their shots come from 3. I don't expect them to have a particularly difficult time with the deeper shooting background.
Yesterday during practice, they were executing and just nailing shot after shot after shot. And then today,
they're all right.
Today I saw Williams very loose warming up, and their guys are hitting shots from 30 feet like it's nothing. And everybody has certainly acclimated themselves to the situation. I think that's I love that. I think as much as it would have been great to see 4 new teams here, just because the nuance of it would have been great to see more teams experience Salem. The fact that all of that element is removed and we're really just talking about the actual games this year, I think is thrilling.
How about that, actually? It's really, it's really nice to have. We got 4 teams here who all, won their way through brackets that, had some teams that, kind of fell down in front of them. They didn't necessarily face all of the great teams in that bracket who they might have because of some upsets, but you don't have anybody here who you look at and go, oh, well, they certainly don't belong at this level. Everybody belongs at this level. Like I said, everybody's got a national championship. They've all got walnut and bronze of some variety somewhere in that trophy case, and someone's going to take another one home.
Well, if you look at everybody's bracket, there's somebody also that didn't end up playing that we thought would play. I mean, Whitewater did not play Stevens Point. Illinois Wesleyan did not play either a Worcester or a Wheaton. Name one on that side of thing, or WashU, exactly. Amherst did not play Cabrini, and for that matter, let's just say Richard Stockton. Williams did not end up facing Virginia Wesleyan. Did not. So there is a team or 2 there, but it's not like these teams didn't also have some challenges along the way and still have some really good games to play. And so for that matter, I think that's what makes this weekend, I think, just kind of resonate a little bit more. Quickly, again, 6 o'clock tonight, then 8:30 for the second game. I think that's the latest we played that second game.
I think so.
In a long time.
So we'll have a nice long show in between games for you. We will wrap up game 1. We'll preview game 2. We have interviews with both Mike Maker and with Dave Hickson. We'll bring you for those. And, of course, we also have a conversation with Pat Miller and with Ron Rose to get to you here in the next 45 minutes before we tip off. We're also going to talk with we'll talk with some other coaches who will help us break these down. We'll talk with some people who know these teams pretty well as well here in the course of the show.
Yeah, so that's all coming up. Again, tweet us if you've got questions. You can use our Twitter handle at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville or hashtag D3H. All that information on the bottom of your screen. You can also email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. We're going to take a break, which will take a moment to execute, but we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll hear from both coaches, I hope, here on the show. If not, we'll come back quickly and reset. But hopefully both coaches as we get ready. Ron Rose from Illinois Wesleyan and Whitewater's Pat Miller. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, and a special thanks to Salem as well. We'll be back with more Hoopsville right after this.
Right after this. This is Whitewater warming up in the basket behind us as Dave gets you ready for our break. And we'll show you the pep bands and stuff as people continue to pile in. Tip-off coming up in just about 45 minutes. We don't have the game broadcast for you, but we'll get you all the coverage all the way up because we'll have a pregame show, maybe unlike NCAA.com, because we're here to cover all of Division III all the time. So we'll be back again in just a couple of minutes.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus. I've discovered in myself a newfound ability to overcome adversity in all different areas. At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With the D3 school, there's a lot of times for other opportunities. Coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can do.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and demand.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, primarily a student athlete, so school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Back here on the Hoopsville pregame show, leading up to tonight's first semifinal between Wisconsin-Whitewater and Illinois Wesleyan, joined by IWU head coach Ron Rose. And first of all, Coach, congratulations. Welcome back to Salem.
It's great to be back here. We love Salem. They're a great host, and very excited to get to play tonight.
Program has been here. This is the 6th trip. You guys have won 1 national title, but you've lost in the semifinals 4 times. Now, obviously, I can't lay all of those on you, but you know, is there any extra pressure to get to the championship game at this point?
Well, I don't think there's any pressure. You get to this stage, you're going to play great teams, and you have to play really well to move on. Certainly that's the goal of all 4 teams here, is to get to Saturday's game and have an opportunity for a national championship. I think it's a terrific accomplishment to be here with these 4 great programs. We're going to play the best game possible. We know we're playing a terrific Wisconsin-Whitewater team. We're going to have to play well to move on.
Expecting a pretty physical game. Obviously, you guys know them really well from the last couple of years. Personnel's changed a little bit, but you've had a chance to see them on film, too.
Yeah, when you play Wisconsin-Whitewater, you know it's going to be physical. That whole Wisconsin league is very physical. We play in the CCIW, which is a physical conference, and so you would expect that to be part of the game. It a little bit depends on, what is going to be allowed in terms of how physical it'll get. But with Whitewater for sure is incredibly athletic. They play great defense. And so one of the keys will be to be able to manage the physical play under the boards.
You guys have a real senior-laden team. Obviously, 6 seniors on the roster. A bunch of guys who played key roles here 2 years ago. Does that make your job easier as a coach?
Oh, it really does. Unfortunately, so does Whitewater and Amherst and Williams. In terms of having an advantage, I don't think we have an advantage, but it certainly has made this trip easier, in terms of knowing the routine and knowing what to expect, knowing where you're going. And so I think there is an ease about our guys that maybe we didn't have 2 years ago.
So when you saw Whitewater the last time in person, KJ Evans had been there for maybe 5 minutes, and now he's the guy who scored 20 points each of the last 3 games. How have the Warhawks changed in the last year?
Well, we played them early last season, and we watched film, and we loved the way Evans played. Just so active, and you could see as he got more comfortable in their system, he was going to be really good. And they are a different team than a year ago. Coach Miller has them playing really good team basketball. You can tell he's really established roles, and their players are playing within those roles, and Evans is certainly a big part of that.
It's Coach Ron Rose of Illinois Wesleyan. His Titans take on the Warhawks of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll be back with more of the Hoopsville pregame show after this.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete needs to maintain that GPA.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship from school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. A lot of people pick schools just based on the sport and don't get that experience.
Being a Division III athlete and developing my leadership skills has definitely put my name out there and helped me get more recognition on campus, but more recognition nationwide. I did win the Justice Trophy, which is based on leadership, academics, and then how well you do on the court.
I'm also the Schwartz Scholar of my class. Schwartz Scholarship is basically a scholarship that is given to a student who's qualified as a likely leader.
At the end of the day, it won't matter how they play on the field, it will matter how they do in the classroom.
Back here at the Salem Civic Center on the Hoopsville pregame show leading up to our first semifinal between Illinois Wesleyan and Wisconsin-Whitewater, joined by Whitewater coach Pat Miller. And Coach, first of all, congratulations, welcome back to Salem.
Oh, thanks. It's a great accomplishment to be here, and we're really appreciative of all the people in Salem and the hospitality, and very happy to be part of what's hopes to be a great Final Four.
It's been I would say a great turnaround for you guys just over the course of the last couple of weeks. Watching that WIAC tournament championship game where Stevens Point just jumped on you right away and you guys were practically never in the game, and then kind of turn it around and get back to the point where you're here this weekend.
Well, that game I just simply refer to as the beatdown. They really took it to us, and it was just a stretch where I didn't feel we played well for a couple weeks leading into that game. We had a bye late in the conference season, which disrupted our momentum, a bye in the conference tournament, and Stevens Point really took it to us. And looking back on it, almost like in 2012 when we lost in the conference tournament championship, it was a little bit of adversity we had to deal with, had to overcome, kind of regroup, come back together, and in the long haul, I think that really helped us.
Do you find guys get worn out this time of year playing 30, 32 games?
It's interesting because typically I would say yes, but we had an unusual situation in our conference this year. We had a lot of games that we won by big margins. In fact, I think we led the country in margin of victory. And it was almost an opposite, where typically we're shortening practices, trying to rest guys, limit guys, and we had to go a little bit longer because guys weren't getting enough minutes, as many minutes as we wanted them to have at that point in the year. So that has not been an issue for us.
All juniors and seniors in the starting lineup. So you guys were here 2 years ago, but the guys who played key roles then are not around now. And a lot of guys who haven't played with this before. How do you think that affects you guys this week?
I think we'll be fine. Cordell Young had a great game in the championship. Alex Murd, Eric Bryson, Cody Odegaard all contributed in those games. And the experience of being here, their ability to communicate with their teammates in terms of expectations and how the weekend's going to go is certainly a help.
And you guys, if not as a basketball program, certainly as an athletic department, very familiar with Salem and very familiar with Division III championship level play in general.
We are, and it's great to come back here and see a lot of familiar faces, and our fans love coming here and have a lot of connections in the community, so it's always positive, and the goal for our fan base is always to make it back to Salem.
That's Pat Miller, head coach of the Warhawks of University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Dave McHugh and I will be back live courtside in just a few minutes here on the Hoopsville pregame show.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
There you go. Start to spit that on.
The well-rounded experience.
primarily.
Never mind.
Stand right here.
Okay.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than
We are on
March
camera.
Madness.
Okay.
There's 800
Randy, what's your
programs
last
with
name
over
again?
11,000 games, leading to 2 national championships.
A pantograph.
We've been covering it all for over a decade.
You never know.
From Eastern to
Yes.
Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New
Actually, you know
England,
what I think?
and Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with a hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 21st through 22nd in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, hosted by the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back courtside here in the Salem Civic Center for Hoopsville's pregame show ahead of our semifinals. I'm Dave McHugh, and I'm now joined by Pantograph writer Randy Reinhardt, and you've certainly seen Illinois Wesleyan a lot. You've certainly seen them make this trip. It's nice to see the Titans back. They're going to have a heck of a battle here. This game seems like a good toss-up with them and Whitewater.
Yes, this is Wesleyan's sixth Final Four, and also my sixth visit to Salem to cover them, so I always enjoy it, and yes, I agree, this one is shaping up as possibly a classic battle.
You know, the road to Salem, as it were, is always full of either a team you didn't expect to play and a team you didn't play that you thought you would play. We rattled off a couple. Wheaton looked like it was on the horizon, didn't happen. WashU was on the horizon, didn't happen. They did have to get through Calvin, did the Titans. WashU didn't happen, but they had to get through some other, challenging teams that ended up being a challenge, including game number 1 against Webster. I mean, the Titans nearly lost this from the get-go. Your take on that game and maybe how that has helped the team down the road?
I think it's helped them tremendously. I don't think they necessarily took Webster lightly, but I think they just kind of assumed that they would take control in the final minute, that they were the better team, they would take control. They did, but just barely, and they got by the skin of their teeth, and I think it was quite a reality check for them, and they have been more focused since then.
Of course, then they take on Calvin in the round of 16. First ever time those two teams have faced off against one another. I was a bit surprised in the outcome.
They played Calvin well. Calvin's a big team. Wesleyan rebounded well. They're not a huge team height-wise, the Titans, but they matched up with Calvin well and really controlled that game.
And then they took on Dickinson coming out of the Centennial Conference, who slowed the game down. Were methodical on offense, it would appear. Not that Illinois Wesleyan struggled with that, but it seemed like the Titans did have to adjust, and it took a while.
Yes, Honig from Dickinson is a tremendous player. He brought Dickinson back several times, really kept them close. But Wesleyan had a big early lead, I believe about 15 points early. They never let that totally get away like they did in the Webster game, and more or less maintain control.
When you look at this Titan squad up against this Whitewater team, a team that they have played before but not in about a year and a half or so, how do you see the matchup? Illinois Wesleyan seems pretty deep, but Whitewater?
Wesleyan is extremely deep. They're the deepest Wesleyan team I've ever covered in 25 plus years. They go down to 10. Their 11th guy is a 6'10 senior who started 12 games earlier in the year. He could be out there too. He's got the talent, but Titans are just that deep.
When you look at this Whitewater squad from what you've gotten to learn about them, whether it's been covering the Titans when they played them in the past or getting ready for this game, is there anything that Whitewater has that you think can be a problem for this Titan team?
Yes, I would say quickness. That appears to be the one thing where Whitewater probably has a clear advantage. Wesleyan is not a slow team, but they're not really a super quick team either. If Wesleyan and Coach Miller talked about this yesterday when I spoke to him. He said we hope to be able to disrupt them on the perimeter. And that's such a key with Wesleyan because they have so many tremendous perimeter shooters. If they're able to swing the ball back and forth at will, they're going to find somebody open.
How, for your point of view, how important is it that Illinois Wesleyan's been here in that matter, so have the other three. But the nuance of it and the newness to it and you don't worry about the shooting lines as much. How much has that changed things, you think, for this Titan squad?
I think that definitely helps a lot. They look to Zimnick and Davis quite a bit as leaders. Those two were here 2 years ago, played quite a bit. They played a very close game, lost a very close game, and that's definitely been a source of motivation for them the last 2 years because they have talked about that since then, that they want to get back here.
In your years of covering this team, obviously the last championship was '97. They have been to Salem several times since, have not been able to get over the hump of even the semifinals and get to a chance of playing for a title. Is there a quiet under the table kind of mentality of they've got to take advantage of opportunities, and this is a great one?
Yes, definitely. This is a senior class that has been pointing toward this ever since they got here. They played with some really good older kids when they were freshmen and sophomores, but they always kind of thought amongst themselves that when we're the leaders, we can make it to Salem.
If they don't win this game, is it a tough pill to swallow?
Oh, it'll definitely be a very bitter pill to swallow, I'm sure, for the Titans or the Warhawks, but I think whichever team does walk out of here with a loss will have lost to an excellent team.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think anybody has the capability of winning a championship with the four teams we have here in Salem. Out of curiosity, when you look at how the Titans break down, we talked about their depth, we talk about their outside shooting. What has changed in comparison to a team 2 years ago who was here?
I would say probably the guard play is definitely a huge part of the Wesleyan game this year. Jordan Nelson came in from Evansville, just a tremendous long-range shooter. He's not afraid to shoot from 25, 26, maybe 27 feet. Sometimes he feels it a little too much and throws the ball up. But Pesotski is a 50% shooter from three. Bryce Dolan gives Dylan Overstreet a break at the point. He shoots about 46 from three. So the guards are just tremendous shooters.
Before we let you go, any nuance you picked up about this team that people should maybe keep an eye on when watching this, or maybe you can appreciate the Titans better as a result?
I think the player that really kind of typifies the Titans more than anything is probably Andrew Zimnick. He shows very little emotion on the floor. He has a quiet confidence about him. He'll throw up some shots early in the game that just look awful. In one of the sectional games, he missed 4 straight free throws. But down the stretch, he hit the free throws when they were needed.
Yeah.
He made a couple threes down the stretch. He's a clutch player. Sometimes he looks like he's not quite in the game, but he always is.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and joining us. Randy Reinhardt writes for the Pantograph. Wonderful articles about Illinois Wesleyan if you want to catch up in the next 25 minutes. Probably not worth it, but definitely after the game, you'll be able to get a good recap from him along with us. Thanks for joining us here on the show. I appreciate it. We're going to take another break here. If you have questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or use the hashtag Hoopsville or D3H. You can also email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You're watching Hoopsville's special pregame show from the Salem Civic Center, leading you up to the first semifinal between Illinois Wesleyan and Whitewater. We'll be back with more Hoopsville presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches.
Thank you. No problem. That was fun.
Appreciate it.
Lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is a place to get your game on.
I think I talked to him the other night.
It's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Field. Suit up in the latest CBE logo Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
Something I discovered myself is that the role
It's a well-rounded experience.
Primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around me.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
And welcome back to Salem, everybody. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, with the Hoopsville pregame show here from the Salem Civic Center. Whitewater warming up right behind us. Of course, Illinois Wesleyan a little further down as they get ready for the first semifinal here at the Salem Civic Center. Tip-off scheduled for 6 o'clock Eastern Time. The second game between Amherst and Williams will come up at approximately 8:30 Eastern Time. A little bit of a bigger gap than we normally see, but that's how they...
It gives us more time. Why are we complaining?
Well, no, I was going to say, and in some tokens as well, that you it allows them just for the flexibility so you don't accidentally run a little bit later. I'm Dave McHugh, Pat Coleman alongside. If you have questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also hashtag us at D3H or email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Don't want to forget the women's game in Division III basketball tipping off here in approximately 22 minutes as well. It will be Tufts versus FDU Florham, and then at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, it'll be Wisconsin-Whitewater. Yes, same Warhawks against. It'll be against Whitman. Thank you. Sure. The team there who certainly made a nice run.
The missionaries from Walla Walla, Washington.
Just the Walla Walla part makes
Best
me
part.
like them.
Best
totally.
part.
Interesting from Randy talking about the team, talks about the guard play being the big difference, and certainly we have seen that. Don't know if Victor Davis gets a lot of attention when you talk about the Illinois Wesleyan Titans. Really good player inside. He's going to maybe have the advantage today. Can Whitewater isolate him, or really is it more, do you let him be and shut down the guard play, and can Illinois Wesleyan play a really good inside-outside game?
I think one of the things that I saw last Saturday against Dickinson, not that Whitewater's going to go zone on Illinois Wesleyan necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but that was one of the places where Illinois Wesleyan really got crossed up in the first half of that game. They got really stagnant on offense. Dickinson had done a good job of denying inside, and then they just couldn't. The Titans just couldn't figure out, how to get open shots from the outside. They kept pushing further and further back out, 26, 27 feet, that sort of thing, and things just weren't falling for them. So I think, the one thing that they know that they learned out of that is just a little reminder of how to be creative, take the extra pass. There are so many guys. Here's why I started that tangent to get to this point. There are so many guys on that team that can shoot that I just don't see how you can take away one guy and try to deny one guy and really have a lot of success. Because even if you deny Davis, you could bring in a guy like George could come in off the bench and slash and cut to the basket. He had a couple of electrifying dunks in the round of 16 game against Calvin. This is a team that really goes deep. There's 10 guys who play 10 minutes or more a game. There's 7 guys who shoot 34% or better from three, and like I said earlier, almost 45 to 50% of their shots are from beyond the arc.
And what's interesting is a lot of times you talk about teams who shorten their bench when it comes to the NCAA tournament. You got two teams here this weekend in Illinois, Wesleyan and Williams, who refuse to go with that adage. They have so many guys, they don't need to shorten the bench. They can go deep, and that creates lots of matchup scenarios that the other team has to consider.
You know, if you're Illinois Wesleyan, you've got 6 seniors. Why would you want to shorten your bench?
Right, absolutely.
You've got a bunch of guys who you got guys who you want to get in the game, right? You know, they start 2 juniors and a sophomore, so they have experience coming off the bench in seniors. You know, there's just so many ways that Illinois Wesleyan can hurt you. So I think that you know, I don't think there's a way that Whitewater can really overcompensate on one guy.
And quickly on Whitewater's side, guard play certainly key for them. Alex Merg, kind of the status quo, very good from outside. He kind of is unflappable. Cordell Young, who we talked about, certainly has improved quite a bit over the last few years and is having a terrific season. KJ Evans and Eric Bryson, you know, arguably we're going with a 4-guard starting lineup there, are 2 guys who will certainly play a key, but I think it's Merg and Cordell Young that are going to be the 2 guys we're going to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, and that's not to take anything away from what KJ Evans has done here in the course of the tournament. 25, 22, 27 points in each of the last 3 games. I talked to him briefly yesterday, and he really felt like he didn't necessarily felt like he had to take the team on his back, but he did definitely come into the last couple of games with a little bit more of a scoring mentality.
We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk to a guy who has seen it all here at the Salem Civic Center. In fact,
and
Pat,
before.
Yeah, Pat will talk to him about just the experience of Salem as we get ready for the first semifinal between Illinois Wesleyan and Wisconsin Whitewater. Again, questions for us or our guests at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us, or other hashtags, D3H, of course. You can also email us Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Quickly, thanks to the National Association of Basketball Coaches at D3Hoops.com for Hoopsville. Live here at Salem. I'll let you wrap it up as I get us to break.
Yep, no problem. So in about, we're about, 12 and a half, 15 minutes from tip-off. We'll be, of course, bringing you up to that final horn when they start pregame introductions of the national anthem. We're about 18 minutes from tip here. We'll have a couple more guests, and we thank you for joining us here on our Hoopsville pregame coverage from the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia.
Every season starts with a hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 21st through 22nd in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, hosted by the University of Wisconsin.
And come on in a little bit closer.
Tickets now available.
And then we should be good. And how many Final Fours has it been? And don't worry about I can see the screen, and really Dave's producing anyway. So.
Okay. Well, this would be the 29th. I guess there's an asterisk because I didn't get to Atlanta, so I guess I could say I have 27 Final Fours.
27 consecutive national semifinals.
Right.
Or 29.
Actually, 29.
Yeah, we'll go with that. There's a lot of things that you could asterisk about last year just because of the format change. So I'm not gonna hold your feet to the fire over that.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Peach, from Southwestern University to
Good.
Good.
This year, no weather, and we went from, you're in Minnesota, right? So Wisconsin, that cold, the winter we've had.
Yeah.
It was nice to win today. What a gift.
30 seconds.
Yes,
Who have you seen this year?
In Kansas City,
I saw
college
Augustana
basketball
and
experience at
Whitewater
Sprint Center.
2 weeks ago in that
The college basketball
regional
experience is
semifinal.
the place to get your game on.
About that for a little bit
It's
too.
not a museum,
Saw
it's an
Carthage a couple
experience you won't
times,
forget. Discover the
saw
history of the
Stevens
game in the
Point.
National Collegiate
Not
Basketball Hall of
in the
Fame,
postseason,
featuring the
but-
Gallery of Honor.
Yeah, well,
Mentor
that's their
Circle,
fault
and Honor Field.
for not getting here, right?
Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Back here live at the Salem Civic Center, Hoopsville pregame show, getting up to coverage of the first national semifinal here between University of Wisconsin-Whitewater and Illinois Wesleyan University. I'm Pat Coleman, and I'm joined by Doug Palm, who has, as Dave mentioned before we went to break, has basically seen it all in Division III. He's been to the national semifinals 29 years in a row, and that means that he, clearly predates Salem, predates Buffalo, and now I kind of lose track of where it was before Buffalo. Springfield, Ohio?
Springfield, Ohio, Wittenberg, then it was Calvin College up in Grand Rapids, and the first time I went was in Rock Island at Augustana when my alma mater won a couple. So.
Your alma mater being North Park, right?
Park,
Which
correct.
is why you got into this run of Final Four. So why did you continue?
I think it got to be, we always enjoyed the experience. I think it's more fun to be without them, because all you hope for is good games.
True.
And you don't have to worry about that emotional high or letdown of Friday night. So we decided that we were going to come back, and if they ever get back, they may never. I don't think they will, but I just truly enjoyed it, and they do such a nice job here in Salem. So it's always a pleasure to come back and watch and be a part of it.
And you have watched the Division III. Can I call it I'm going to call it the Final Four for the next couple minutes. Sorry, evolve over the course of 3 decades. What were some of those ones like? The ones at Rock Island before Division III had this big cachet, because D3 was really young back then.
D3 was really young back then. I think it was basically the responsibility of the whole school. I think maybe when it went to Wittenberg, some of the teams in the conferences that were close to Wittenberg helped out. The big change when it came here, it was a joint effort of ODAC and the city of Salem, and just that combination elevated the presence of and gave, I thought, more stature to it. It became, I truly thought, a championship experience that a lot of people imagined what it would be like at D1. And not that you want to get into a D1, D3 comparison, but this was very special. And I think teams that come down here are treated well. And I think it does a lot to uphold the tradition or the image of D3 being for people who are students who also happen to like to play basketball and bring a lot of skills. I can still remember in the infancy of the three-point field goal, D3 had some of the best shooters in the country, and next thing you know, they're getting recruited after their first year, and they end up on a bench, say at Iowa or someplace like that. So.
I look back through the list of games that you've seen. One of the ones that it always fascinates me, and it was before I really had a good opportunity to follow Division III, was that 1994 championship between Lebanon Valley and NYU, the one that goes to overtime. And we found out, probably people suspected at the time, but found out when we looked at the tape later that the game-tying shot by Lebanon Valley at the end of regulation actually came after the buzzer. What do you remember? What was the reaction when it happened at the time?
Oh, I think there was obviously, depending on your following, there was obviously dismay and frustration and some, obvious anger. And then on the other side, there was bliss. And I think the people who were for Lebanon Valley didn't really catch it.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of the people for Wittenberg, I think the basketball fans in the auditorium sort of felt that it would have been nice to see a replay. It would have been nice to see some of the other things that are now so prevalent that weren't there. So it was an exciting game, though. I mean, I turned around once and there was Dolph Shays, who had a son playing for NYU at the time, and of course Lebanon Valley. He goes on into the D1 coaching ranks, and so there's been a lot of. I think one of the classic games here was the double overtime Platteville versus Hampton-Sydney. Double overtime, and one of either the first overtime or the end of the game was on a backdoor play.
Backdoor cut. I think that was the end of the game. The basket that put Platteville up to stay sent Bo Ryan on to Division I, where he's been a successful coach, first at Wisconsin-Milwaukee and then at the University of Wisconsin. My favorite game I have to take out of the running in Salem, because it was the 2001 championship where my alma mater, Catholic U, won. Is that Platteville Hampton-Sydney game? Is that maybe the favorite one you've seen here?
Oh, I think for a game, yes. For some performances, there were others. The Otterbein team, and I thought when even a runner-up such as Eau Claire, the one he was the Karstensen.
Yeah,
he had such an unbelievable 2 games.
Yes.
That was deserving that they recognized that and awarded him. But I still think that Platteville Hampton-Sydney game, I mean, the place was pretty packed. And obviously when you get some team from the region, it makes a big difference. So, but I'm looking for 4 good games here. There's 7 championships in the house, so to speak.
That's true.
Including the defending national champion. So I I think it will be fun basketball. So I'm looking forward to it.
We talked a little bit about Illinois Wesleyan earlier in this pregame show. I know that you got a chance to see Whitewater play earlier in this tournament. What's your impressions of the Warhawks?
Well, I thought they started slowly in that game against Augustana. The backcourt for Augustana held up, but then in the second half, I think just Whitewater wore them down. Not that it was overly physical, but they guarded well. And T.J. Evans had a great second half. And he's the difference maker for them, I think, when it comes to crunch time. So
he's Doug Palm, who's seen 29 consecutive national semifinals. As we get you up to this national semifinal here today between the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater and Illinois Wesleyan University. It's Hoopsville. You can get us on Twitter at Hoops, the hashtag Hoopsville, hashtag D3H, and all of those things. And we'll take a break. When we come back out, we'll get you our final thoughts and then get ready for tip-off. We'll send you over to the NCAA.com coverage for that. We'll be back in just a moment here from the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia, thanks to the City of Salem and the National Association of Basketball Coaches.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus. I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
It's always helpful not to hit the mute button. Welcome back to Hoopsville's pregame show, leading you up to the first semifinal here against Illinois Wesleyan.
I was going to say, I don't have enough sign language to be able to get us through.
Yeah, I know.
About 3 things.
That's about all I got as well. We are 2 minutes away from the buzzer, as it were, so we got 2 minutes left here before we sign off and get you to the game, produced by NCAA.com. And quickly, you look at the Titans and you look at the Warhawks. How do you see this game shaping up?
Yeah, I see this being a bruising battle. I see it being a relatively low-scoring game, probably in the high 60s. I think Illinois Wesleyan would like to be able to push the tempo a little bit. Would like to be able to shoot better from outside, but I think Whitewater's going to really D them up. You remember, Dave, the reason why Whitewater won the title 2 years ago because so many years Whitewater had started the season hot, had been highly ranked the first term through the WIAC regular season, and then came around the second time around and they weren't playing enough defense and things weren't falling for them and they kind of fell apart. When they won the title here in 2012, it was because that was a team that played defense, and Pat Miller talked about that. They're going to need to continue to play defense here to get out of this weekend.
Of course, officiating going to be key. 12 officials from around the country have come here, not specific crews from different places to work together. They are mixing it up. I like the idea. How will the officials allow Whitewater to be aggressive or allow a lot of contact? That can be a deciding factor, and how teams will react to that. If I were to go out on a limb, I've got Illinois Wesleyan, but in a coin flip.
Yeah, that's a great point, to be honest with you. We've got 2 Northeast teams and we've got 2 Midwest with a lowercase m teams playing here. But if you're not accustomed to a game being called in a different style, you get 2 Northeast teams being called by an official group of officials that call games like they do in the Midwest, and vice versa. Teams are going to have to adjust, and the teams that adjust are the teams that win.
So he's Pat Coleman. I'm Dave McHugh. We will be back on the air between games to wrap up this one and get you ready for Amherst Williams here on Hoopsville. I want to thank everybody for helping us do this. The Hoopsville pregame show is presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, and, of course, the City of Salem. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll sign off. We'll see you after Game 1.
So when you want to go watch the NCAA.com video footage, if you're at the top of our page here on D3Hoops.com, click the video link. If that doesn't work for you, to get you out to NCAA.com, go to the front page of D3Hoops.com, go to the scoreboard box, and pick out the video link, and they will have you covered on NCAA.com. For Dave, I'm Pat Coleman.